Hey guys, welcome back. It's Cult of Film. I'm back with our man Justin, aka Nite Patrol. All you future
Guys.
brokers out there know who he is. And
Hey.
yeah, today we are, because of Justin, we are reviewing, I think, probably one of the most sort of tentpole anime for at least American otaku. We are going over Vampire Hunter D, 1985, absolute
Mm,
classic, perennial.
yeah.
I literally just finished watching the Blu-ray version. I watched three versions of this film for us in
Mhm.
preparation of today, Justin. I just
Wow.
finished the Blu-ray, which they redubbed. I did manage to find the original Streamline Pictures dub that we grew up with,
Yeah, yeah,
and there's a
yeah.
really bad um, original Japanese language English subtitled version that you have to watch. You can't watch in landscape on your phone. You have to watch it with your phone right side up.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, okay. Wow.
and the Blu-ray is without a doubt the most beautiful one. But I'm going to be honest with you, the voice acting doesn't come close to the Streamline Pictures dub. The character voice acting work in it nothing beats it, man. It's so good. It's
Yeah,
so
it really was. I think the reason why, because I tried to watch it too. Like I watched like the YouTube, I watched whatever was on YouTube.
yeah. All
And
these are on YouTube, by the way. We didn't pay for any of this, so
but yeah, I recently did. Yeah, I did take a look at the updated version with the more, I guess modernized voice acting, and it's underwhelming for sure. I think the reason why is because a lot of like voice actors from like, like the 80s and the 90s, they, a lot of them were Canadian actors, and for some reason they just had a spirit and a vibe to their acting. Like, Steve
I'm
Blum
not
is from
gonna.
that era.
I'm gonna stop you there because this is,
Uh,
as an actor myself, I'm so tired of everyone comparing American actors to foreigners and them being better. They're not. Sorry, it's a
oh
real.
yeah.
It's a point for me. It's. I don't think they were necessarily Canadian, but I think the voice directing was better. Like, it's entirely possible that maybe the actors today aren't as good, but I do think sometimes it is in the direction that if you're not getting something like, I don't know how much you watched of the Blu-ray redub, but the young woman who dubbed the noble daughter of Count Lee,
Mm,
I'm like, are you doing an American accent or are you doing an English accent? Because we're
mm,
kind of in the middle, and it was just terrible. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, there's something about either the acting or the voice direction from the 80s, 90s actors that, well, first of all, there were characters like Count Lee in the redub Blu-ray.
Yeah.
It just sounds like some guy. He
It really
doesn't
sounds like
sound
a
like
count.
the most powerful vampire ever.
He sounds like a
Something's
count.
missing there.
Yeah, he sounds he sounds like a real vampire. And I mean, just rated, you know what I mean? Like you hear that deep, he has like a deep voice with
Yes.
a
And
with a
an
very
accent.
thick Italian, thick Italian accent. And it's just like, it just his voice combined very well with the actual visuals for,
Yes.
Count Lee. And it was just like, dude, you're really dealing with he had, final boss energy. That, it's definitely
Absolutely.
it's like final, like straight up final boss. And it was just like, dude, every time he's on screen, and he's talking, it's like, dude, it's like, yeah, that's definitely gonna be the final boss. It's like it's gonna take a lot to bring this guy down. There's just a lot of we can get we're gonna get into like the whole, like visuals and the entire like background of Vampire Hunter D in the movie, of the film and all that. But it was just,
You're
man,
absolutely
yeah.
right. Everybody in the Streamline dub looked like they sounded and they sounded like they looked. And that seemed to be missing from the Blu-ray redub. I don't know who did the redub, no disrespect, but it didn't work. And for as much hate as Streamline, it became really in fashion in the late 90s and the 2000s to hate on Streamline and Carl Masick because they did change certain words. They weren't always 100% pure translations, but the voice acting, I'm sorry, nothing comes close to what they did. And there's a lot of,
Yeah.
like I said, a lot of underwhelming stuff. But
Hmm.
I guess I rewind a bit. Those that aren't familiar, uh, Justin and I have been talking and we've been reviewing a lot of these classic anime. And one that you mentioned, Justin, was Vampire Hunter D. And it's one of those, like we said, it's a tentpole anime, but it's one of those things, having not watched it for so long and then sitting down and watching literally 3 versions, I have a newfound respect for the true art of voice direction, the true art of voice acting, and just how certain companies or certain productions approach dubbing in anime, or not, because like I said, I watched a really grainy old, clearly VHS rip of the original Japanese Vampire Hunter D, and it sounded great. I couldn't really see as much, so I slogged through. But this is one of those anime that, you know, again, if you are 80s, 90s kids like you and I are, this is the stuff we rented at Blockbuster or our local video store, along with Golgo 13, Fist of the North Star, all these Akira, all these early streamlined dubs that really laid the path for the embarrassment of riches that we have today. And so let me just say, man, this was, I got total early Sci-Fi Channel goosebumps watching this. And so I really appreciate you recommending this one, because I just didn't think of it.
Yeah, this is a must see. It's a must be by every standard. I know you, I know your taste, and I know this is definitely going to be, you know, one of those, you know, movies that is definitely going to be like just, you know, just a treasure trove of just anime goodness for you, you know. So it's all there. I remember I remember watching it for the first time and just being blown away by it, and it was just, once again, it was just, you know, just way back in the beginning, it was just coming on channel 62 every weekend.
Right.
Something would come on, and I didn't know what was going to come on.
WJYS out of Hammond, but serving Chicagoland.
Right, just who would have thought, right? Just
Right.
dude, like that Japanimation lineup, it predates Toonami, it predates sci-fi, you know, sci-fi anime Sundays. It predates, you know, the late 90s anime invasion. This was like about 93 to like 97 that they were doing that program. And you know, at that time they were showing a lot of, you know, late 80s or like either actually all 80s, like 80s to early to mid 90s anime. And I think around that time that it was done, you know, that's when a lot of the distribution companies were starting to pick up. At that time, that was, you know, Manga Entertainment was really picking up. And
well, it's interesting because when Streamline Pictures went bust, Manga just kind of went in and bought everything. There was
they picked up
I
the
think
slack,
over half the Manga Entertainment library was from a company. There was a company called US Renditions that dubbed and subtitled stuff like Guyver, Dangayo, and Gunbuster in the early 90s. I know that because I literally mail ordered stuff from them in the 90s. So they were dubbing and subtitling a bunch of anime from the mid to late 80s. You can get it by mail order or like through your comic book store in the 90s. And then there was Streamline, and somehow, I don't know how this happened, but US Renditions, Streamline, a lot of these early indies either went bankrupt or went away. Manga Entertainment came by, scooped them all up, and then on top of that, started dubbing and subtitling their own stuff. So it really started to blow up.
Yeah, that was a crazy time, and it was really fun to just kind of watch that and to kind of see it all just kind of happen just in phases. How animes rise to popularity in America. You was just kind of like right there, just seeing it happen in real time. It was like, if you weren't, for most people, it was already, you know, around, you know, but you know that in the 90s it just started to just multiply. You know, you would see VHS, you know, places like, you know, of course, like Blockbuster. For me was, you know, Suncoast. Suncoast was like, you know, the go-to. Oh God, I miss that store so much.
I waste because I worked at a grocery store in high school, and there'd be times an entire check would just go to whatever, you know, like if it was a particularly heavy week, you know, an anime drops, it'd be like, well, okay, I guess I'm going to try to pick up hours because I just spent my entire check on anime VHS. But there's something to it as well. Like every once in a while, there'd be a dud, not too many, but you know, getting back to Vampire Hunter D, they really knew what to pick. Like, for as much criticism as there was from like parents and parenting groups, you know, these people who the Karens of the 90s, the Karens of the 2000s, that become such a problem today that we're shouting. But I think about Vampire Hunter D, And it's almost like the most perfect one you could have brought over because one, the vampire myth is pretty universal, pretty international. You've got
Yeah.
this badass looking character of D in his cloak with his sword over his shoulder, his long brimmed hat, his cybernetic horse. You've
Talking
got
left hand.
yeah, you've got I'm trying to remember the young lady, the maiden, who hires him because of the vampires that are and other creatures that are taking her livestock.
Hmm.
But she looks like a German milkmaid, but she has a mini skirt. Her cleavage is present, obviously super Japanese.
Yeah, yeah,
You've got the younger brother who's pretty scrappy and just wants to help. You've got Count Magnus Lee, who's the all powerful, like you said, the final boss, really. And it
yeah.
just works. Like visually, there's not, if you're a kid who isn't into deep anime and Japanese culture, you can rent something like Vampire Hunter D, and you're immediately sucked in. It's like, okay, it's
Yeah.
vampires, it's sword fighting, it's magic, it's mutants. There's a couple werewolves that come. It's
It's
so
very
fun.
80s. If you're
It's
into that.
it's super
Very
80s,
80s.
even
So
beyond the 80s. Well, first of all, you're right. It's
it's
the
good 80s.
no, it's a gem of the 80s. Again
Yeah.
rewatching because I watched it basically 3 times. The
Yeah.
direction, the direction in this movie,
Mm.
so dynamic. And I didn't realize this. I always thought the Vampire Hunter D was a I thought it was a feature film release, and it's actually an OVA. This actually came out in Japan direct to video. It's only an hour and 20 minutes, so it's literally 80 minutes. It feels like it's
Mhm.
2 hours. There's so much packed into it. And I mean
Mm.
like a good 2 hours, like a edge of your seat, wow, this is fun 2 hours. The
Yeah.
uh the cast, again, it's D feels familiar. Um, Doris, the young lady, feels
Yeah, Doris.
familiar.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Count Lee feels like he looks like that classic European Bela Lugosi style vampire.
Yeah,
It's
that's
so
true.
well done. It's kind of cyberpunk because you've got this weird mixture of people, like it's pastoral and it's very sort of European Middle Ages fiefdom, but then people have like cybernetic horses. People have but then the cybernetic horses pull a cart. Like it's this weird mix of technology and sort of old timey medieval sort of aesthetic and old tech, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's supposed to be post-apocalyptic as well too, because
Right.
it has the same premise as Fist of the North Star. Everything
Yep.
ended in the world as we know it ended in nuclear fallout, and
Right.
thousands of years later, there was evolution of animals. I just kind of read up on the backstory as well because there's so much, like, it's one of those things. There's so much lore, and it's something I'm gonna have to explore because, believe it or not, it's been a long time since I touched Vampire Hunter D, and I never read the novels. But I know there's so
Right.
many novels out there worth reading with so much backstory and lore behind
Yes.
what's going on. And yeah, there was a lot happening up to the point of, like, say for example, the first like movie. But yeah, thousands of years, the vampires, they basically straight up took over the world. They pretty much became like the alpha
Hmm.
predators and beings. And by the time that Vampire Hunter D comes along, you could say that it's kind of like the fall of that period now, where it's like the
Right.
humans are beginning to rise up again and reclaim civilization slowly.
Right.
And D is playing a big role in that. D himself as a character is very mysterious.
Hmm.
Um, he's very aesthetically awesome looking. And it's like he's got a handsome face. He's got that amazing hat and black cloak, and
Right.
he's just got just decked out, and like maybe it looks like leather. It looks like black leather, and
Right.
he's got a giant sword. It's just a mysterious figure, but apparently he's very old. He's
Yeah.
very old, and he has relation to both humans and vampires. But
Right.
he's playing a big role in their extinction, and it's very interesting to see what how that all plays out in this specific movie. Everything that he
Yeah. This
does.
was the first time that, like you said, it's from a series of novels. Is
Yeah,
Yoshitaka Amano, I believe.
yeah, and
Uh,
Hideyuki Kikuchi. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. So he's the
and
writer. And, yeah.
just unbelievable novels, incredible story. Like you said, there's a massive.
Beautiful.
It's like Dune. Like there's this whole
Oh
universe
yeah. Yeah.
that's built
Yeah.
kind of around D, and this was the first time it had ever been animated, and it was a massive, massive hit.
Yeah.
It, was even, it was a big hit in Japan. It was an even bigger hit in the States when it came out, and
Right.
surprisingly, the creators really didn't care for it that much, and that's why
Yeah.
there's been
That's
so
crazy.
few. Like there was Vampire Hunter D, which was the original OVA, or what would be a limited theatrical release by Streamline Pictures in the States, and probably I
Right.
think Canada too. And then back in 2000, there was Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, which was an even higher budget animated film, which
One of the most
everybody
beautiful and epic movies of all time.
absolutely gorgeous, not better than the first one. I think they're on par with each other. They're,
Wow. Yeah.
it's I mean everybody says the second one's better
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Everybody's all like, yeah, Bloodlust is so good. They
it's
never
way
watched the first
more
movie.
graphic. I mean, they had a bigger budget. I mean, an OVA budget in
Yeah.
1984 versus
Yeah.
2000,
2000.
all the money in the world to, I mean, it is beautiful. It's
True.
gorgeous. It's an accomplishment, but
Yeah.
it's kind
Yeah.
of like, it's like people who only watch The Dark Knight and don't watch Batman Begins or The Dark Knight Rises. Is like, okay, do you also just read the middle of a book? Like, you have to start at the beginning, and that's why
Yeah.
Vampire Hunter
Yeah.
D,
Seriously. Yeah.
it
'Cause
lays
it's
that groundwork. Like you said, you have the things that we all know about. The vampire who lives up in the castle, who strikes fear into the townspeople. You have the young maiden and the townspeople that are in fear of the vampires, but have their farms and are doing the best they can. What's cool about this, though, is it's not just a gunslinger rolling into town or a vampire hunter that rolls into town. It's a vampire hunter that um, he's kind of both. He's Japanese Blade in many ways,
yeah. Yep.
without the cool haircut. Although I do love D's long hair. I could see him
Oh
being
yeah.
played.
Yeah.
I could totally see him being played by some like Japanese or Korean pretty boy. Like if they ever did a live action of it, I could totally see somebody like that in that role.
Yeah.
And then
Definitely.
you pepper in sort of this weird mix of pastoral early agriculture with high technology. You've got these different mutants that work for the counts that come in and try to stop or like the werewolves that get deployed to take out the farm defenses so that they can steal livestock. It was
Right.
really, really well thought out, and it's
Yeah.
amazing how much they pack in only 80 minutes. It blows my mind that it's that short.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
seriously, there's a lot going on in there. There's a lot of it's every character has is different from the next one. I really love the character designs, even the creature designs. The creatures,
oh
there's
yeah,
like how many scenes with like multiple creatures in one panel, and it's
right.
just like, dude, you're just in this. Like when you're with the characters, you feel safe, but you go out into the, when they have the action sequences, there is a level of fear, terror, dark fantasy, and the unknown that you're just kind of thrown in with the protagonist to deal with, and it's just amazing to see what they pull off because everything is super mysterious and dark. You have like the elements of a western, elements of a cyberpunk, but there's definitely the dominant quality is definitely the horror aspect of it, and it's what makes it so thrilling is just how everything is drawn. The art style, the storytelling, and the action. Everything is written very specifically and very direct, and it just tosses you, it just sucks you in every time you watch it, no
Oh,
matter what. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it sucks
there,
you in.
you're absolutely right. There isn't a weak link. Like sometimes in older anime, there's like a few frames that look wonky or strange sometimes. And again, this didn't have the massive feature film budget of the stuff you and I normally review, like Fist of the North
Mhm.
Star movie, Golgo 13. Like those were meant to be released in theaters, have massive distribution, so they had a lot of money behind them and just armies and armies of animators. And this
Yeah,
was an OVA in the mid 80s. OVA direct to video was a huge market in Japan at the time
it
and
was
would
a movement.
become the same in the US and the 90s. But there's no weak link. There's nothing. It is so crisp, clean, flowing, and the direction, the directing of this film as well. I look at how some of the shots are composed. Like there's shots where like you see D coming in at an angle, like just shots that I don't see in action films, I don't see in superhero films, and I really don't even see, not that I watch a ton of contemporary anime, but angles and compositions from these directors that I just don't see, even in other anime. Like I didn't, again, there's a lot in this original film that, again, I know Bloodlust gets all the glory and all the love, but this original film is really, really dynamic, like you said. One, in character design, the just how everything is sort of set up, but even the directing too. You can have great characters and great character designs if it's not, you don't know what to do with them in terms of directing. So I really have to hand it to it's a Tuyo Ishida who directed this film.
Okay. Right. Okay.
And he blew it out of the water. It's really good.
It was
Other
it's
stuff.
very on point.
I'm trying to see Tuyo Ishida. I want to look up other stuff he did. So he
Okay.
did. I'm trying to think. Oh, here's his God. He worked a lot. Okay. He did the Cleopatra anime from 1970 that I hear a lot about. I've never seen. He directed the Space Battleship Yamato series from 1974 to 1981.
Nice.
He did, let me see. So much of this stuff people aren't going to know.
I know.
Well, yeah. So we did Dan Cougar, Super Beast Machine God, one of my favorites. He did Guyver Out of Control OVA from 1986. He did Cyborg 09, 2001. Amon, Apocalypse of Devilman 2000. So this guy has
that's some legend stuff.
Fist of the North Star, 1984. So he directed on the series of Fist of the North Star as well. So yeah, this guy's talented, and it really, really shows in this particular OVA. This guy he directed the crap out of this. Really good.
Yeah. That's incredible, man. That's an incredible tracker. I was kind of curious that I didn't never, like I said, it's one of those things I didn't really get. I never really looked into as far as like, the actual production, behind the movie itself, like who actually, worked on the film and who directed it. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Where you actually have like pretty much an Old Testament legend of an anime director that produced multiple projects. And honestly, in my opinion, a lot of the production, a lot of the based on what you told me, a lot of the movies and shows that he worked on, it really did set the precedent and the standard for how a lot of anime has been written. There's like, you think about like, dude, Battleship Yamato, you think about that and how much of a classic that is. A lot of a lot of things, just because, and this is something a lot of people need to learn, just because an anime is old, it doesn't mean that it's outdated. When you think about the storytelling is really made to last for years, whether it's something that's set up in the past or in the future. They use a lot of epic and timeless storytelling to really keep those titles relevant, for years. So I mean, you can never just look at it and it's like, oh, it's old, I don't want to look at it. No, don't do that. Don't do that. It's still good. You can still watch it, and it still actually has stuff in there that's relevant to our time, to different age groups and different types of people. There's always something in there that's gonna grab your attention, that they use the characters to convey in a plot of some kind. But yeah, like Yamato's epic, dude.
Yamato and the original Mobile Suit Gundam. I will put the original Mobile Suit Gundam movie trilogy, because there's some episodes of the original Gundam series.
45th anniversary was yesterday, by the way. Yeah.
What's that?
The 45th year anniversary for the original Gundam series was yesterday. So.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. So it was actually, I was watching.
I went back and I remember when I first watched when there used to be an anime company it was in the late 80s, or late 90s. Jesus, how old am I? Late 90s, early 2000s, called animevillage.com. And I remember ordering the original Gundam movie trilogy in clamshell VHS cases, watching this thing and being absolutely blown away. And then I saw that the original movie trilogy drop on Netflix, and I hadn't seen it in like 20 years plus. And I sat down and watched it and was blown away again. And again, it's the animation is dated. It doesn't make it bad, because then I tried to sit down and watch like 2 contemporary TV series, 2 anime,
Mhm.
and I struggled through a couple episodes. I'm like, tap it out. I can't do it. The
That's
storytelling, the scope of something like the original Gundam movie trilogy, something like the original Vampire Hunter D, all of these, like, there's a reason these movies and
yeah,
these,
that's true.
they're
The
perennial
scope.
classics, you know?
Scope. I think that might be a big issue, with a lot of newer anime. It makes it a little bit harder to watch because, we're kind of we don't really think about it. We're pretty spoiled. We got a lot of great stuff early
Right,
on, and a
right.
lot of stuff that's available now. A lot of people aren't aware of. They think it's like the best or it's good or it's great, but honestly, um, I feel like the contemporary anime now relies on its animation more
Right.
so than its storytelling and the scope. Yeah, you just mentioned it. The scope of things are really watered and shrunk down, in favor of probably just a bunch of tropes. You always
Yeah,
have like,
it's all sizzle but no steak, and I'd rather
yeah,
have steak than the sizzle.
yeah,
Depending on where someone starts, I think that there is. I mean, is it impressive? Yes, but I'm a big narrative characterization. Take me on a ride, a type of a guy, and I don't care if that animation comes from 1979, from
yeah,
1989,
no, yeah,
from
yeah.
1999. If you're telling me a really cool, compelling story with great characters, I'll
I
adjust
don't
to
love it
what
for,
the anime style is. Like even newer stuff, like I would say the newest stuff I enjoy tends to be the Ghibli stuff. But even then, the Ghibli stuff that's even new is still grounded in a style of, it's like
it's in its own style.
like the Wind
Yeah,
Rises. The Wind Rises, for example, was probably the
that was
last
good.
anime I saw in the theater. That's
Yeah, it
still
was so
closer
good.
to Nausicaa than
It was.
Attack on Titan
Ah,
is to
oh,
Nausicaa.
oh, yeah, I'm like, oh, bangers, man. Yeah, Nausicaa is one of my all-time favorite movies. The Wind Rises was it was very good. It
Oh my
was
god, that broke
very
my heart. I can't
oh
remember the
my
last time
god,
I
dude.
cried.
Yeah. Oh
The Wind
man. Oh
Rises and
man.
Grave of the Fireflies. I'm like, okay, it's
Oh
going to be a
man.
while
Oh
before
yeah.
I watch these movies.
Those are emotional roller coaster rides. So not for the faint of heart. Wind Rises, hit me out of nowhere because it was definitely a very epic and amazing tale. It was very simple, in the premise. It was basically just about an engineer, but the
Yep.
stuff that he was experiencing at the time and his place in his place and his purpose and the things that he did for Japan. He sacrificed a lot, and you didn't
Yeah.
really you
Like,
saw
he
you saw
wanted
him
to build
succeed, but
planes.
I don't want to give it away. But it's
Right.
like it's the success. He did some incredible things. As an engineer, and that was his dream. But there was a cost, and the cost was just hit me out of nowhere, and it hit you out of nowhere with still enough time to really feel like, yeah, this is gonna be bad, this is gonna hurt, and it's just like, bruh, it was
Well, again,
heartbreaking.
again,
Oh
it's
man.
a beautiful example of when animation is made for adults that read. Um,
Yeah.
there's a few of us left. I kind of like, it's like, I don't need necessarily Dragon Balls. Nothing against Dragon Ball, but
Yeah.
I don't get it. I've never got it. I never will get it, and that's okay. Um,
That's
but
okay. It's all right.
and that's completely fine. It's that's not
Yeah.
that. And again, that doesn't make it bad at all because I don't like it. It's
Yeah.
just I do like the fact that there's still a corner, however shrinking it is, that we can still get either sort of adult fantastical stories like Vampire Hunter D, or we can get these semi-biographical historical dramas like The Wind Rises from Studio
Mm,
Ghibli. Uh,
yeah.
that
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 was
still that stuff is still out there. I think that um, again, it's hard for me. Here I am criticizing modern anime without watching a lot of it. It's hard to get into, and I think what not just the nostalgia factor, because that's the thing too. I've gone back and rewatched older anime that really didn't hold up. I won't name names, but
okay.
something like Vampire Hunter D, in addition to dealing with universal, you can call them tropes, universal tropes of vampires and werewolves and vampire hunters and damsels in distress. For as easy as it would be to dismiss those things, when they're done well, I don't care what it is. If it's
Hmm.
something that's well, it's done well, and it can be fun and it can be exciting. And I think that's ultimately where again, I don't need the sizzle because I got the steak. It's 80 minutes. Again, Vampire Hunter D, it's 80 minutes of just pure fun, adventure, really solid directing and characterization. So again, I look at something like this and it kind of shocks me that the original creators of the novels weren't as hot on it. But again, that's, as an artist, I'm sure somebody else interpreting your work, that can be really, really dicey, really, really touchy. So,
Right.
somebody's taking your baby and then interpreting it in a different medium. I understand that, but it's simple, but they add enough flourish with the, again, post-apocalyptic, the cyberpunk aspect of it, living right alongside, again, the medieval vampire myths. It's just so brilliant. It's so effing well done.
It's a swirl. It's definitely a swirl. When you put it like that, you think about the art direction, the direction itself, and it's just in that era of how you can have animation actually help tell a story when you have like still moments where nobody's talking. Like there's I know there's a sequence in the movie where D goes to the Lee Castle by himself, and there's not a lot of there's little to no dialogue. It's just him by himself, just going to different parts of this castle, fighting different mutants, and it looks like mutants and demons, and there's not a lot of conversation there, but you're getting a lot of information from every panel, and every sort of creature that attempts to challenge D and how he deals with the situation. I feel like that's definitely a hallmark trope that's in all of anime. How you have like a character that's able to just kind of stand up and face any type of like obstacle or any type of opponent, and have a way to like come off where the opponents they're not by any means weak. They're definitely can be intimidating or deceptive, and a reader. They're written to a point where it's like a reader doesn't know what's coming or how a protagonist is going to get out of a situation, but the protagonist is able to do something, or he possesses some type of ability, skill, or willpower to get out of the situation on top, and with style.
And they don't make it easy. That was the other thing that's I appreciate.
Yeah, you just didn't know every time. You're like, how's he gonna get out of this?
First time this character's ever on screen in terms of like he was just in a novel before, and like of all the stories to pick, I'm like, God, he kind of gets his ass handed to him a few times. But you're right. It's not.
Yeah, it wasn't.
He's not invincible, so it's interesting. He has vulnerabilities, but we don't know that going in, and we're sort of learning as we go along. Of okay, this character has this magic, or this character has this ability, and again, for as tropey as this could be, Vampire Hunter, Damsel in Distress, Final Boss Vampire, as tropey and as predictable as that sounds, there's nothing predictable about this story or how it unfolds, and I really, really love that.
Yeah, definitely, and I feel like that's it's the power of good character writing. I love the fact that you're gonna have good guys, you're gonna have bad guys, but the thing is that there's still some twist in between that we never saw coming. Dealing with Count Lee's daughter, or the mutant guy. I forgot his name. The guy with the white hair and the.
I really like his character design, man. I'm looking.
Yeah, his character design was cool. He was definitely a
Ray.
Cool character. And
Ray.
Oh yeah, Ray. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and we never knew it was gonna happen. We never saw. There are definitely some really cool twists in there. That we didn't see coming. And it wasn't predictable. That was like one of the coolest things about it, is that
I forgot about half of that stuff. Again, it had been so long, and I'm like, oh, that's right, that happens. Okay, I completely forgot.
Besides D, Ray was, in my opinion, he was the second most interesting character in that movie.
Well, did you notice? I watched these things back to back, but one of the things I thought was very cool about the 2015 redub that was on Blu-ray and the 1992 dub from Streamline, it was interesting how the only character that almost sounded exactly the same was Ray. Ray, who, to some background, Ray he works for the noble family of Lee, the House of Lee. He's sort of a servant to them. He's not quite a noble, but he's also not a human. He looks cool. I love his design. I think next to D, he without a doubt has the coolest design of all the characters. He's kind of gray skinned, gray haired, but then he's got like these red streaks in his hair. He's got this badass sort of like boomerang knife thing.
Mm-hmm.
But he sounded almost the same from dub to dub, and I kind of appreciated that.
And a hand for a hand. Yeah.
Yes, he's got that cool gravelly voice in the original Streamline dub, and they kind of kept that, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, he was a really awesome character, and I you know, honestly, when you first read him, it's like, oh yeah, D's gonna kick this guy's ass. But then it's like, okay, now you see like, oh man, it's not that easy. Oh, he's got some things, he's got some tricks up his sleeve, and then you know, towards the end, you're like, dude, it's like actually kind of like the one thing that really a lot of things that really stuck out to me over the years about that movie was Ray. A lot of the scenes that he was in, like there's a scene where him and Count Lee's daughter are walking up to where Dee and Doris are sleeping, and you just have this scene. It's just like a kind of like a still shot of them just walking in the dark. You know, like just dark walking towards the building, and you can't see anything, but you see like their silhouette, and it's just like the whites of their eyes. And I thought it was such a cool and ominous, ominous way.
Again, the choices that from the director, the art director,
that was cool.
And like you mentioned something earlier that I really appreciate, that how many scenes and frames of this movie are just purely visual. And I think we forget sometimes, and even people who I think write and direct anime forget sometimes, it is a visual medium. You don't have to be talking every minute. The film and animation is about showing. Like the opening shot where Doris she's in the road, and the wind is coming at her face, and the wind is blowing through all of the grass and the fields, and she's just waiting for Dee to arrive because she wants to hire him to help her. And it's completely silent, except for you see the wind blowing, like intense wind blowing about her and blowing through her clothes and the grasses. And all you hear is the sound of the wind. And then you see the silhouette of Dee approach, and you hear the horse moving, and you hear all of that. And then, like you said, with Ray and what was her name? Countess Lamarca Lee approaching, the whites of their eyes. The whole time that Dee is making his way towards Castle Lee, and he encounters these threats. And again, not a single line. It's just a cool ass battle. Again, beautifully. There's so many great gems of, like a great movie. You don't necessarily have to have people. Again, I'm not against dialogue. I'm a dialogue heavy screenwriter myself, but there's also, you have to allow for, sometimes you can tell more about a character to your audience with dead silence and just actions or framing or just watching them walk than an hour's worth of dialogue. And again, this movie really strikes that beautiful balance, and it's so fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about that too. Everybody has something to say, and I really like the like I said, I like the family. They're a great antagonist. There's always a lot of mystery to them. They had a lot to say, and it was great that they actually did have a character like Dee that was definitely more for the aesthetic and action sequences, and more for like kind of making things more mysterious, because he didn't really say it a lot, but he did the most stuff in the film. But it just kind of loaned, the absence of his dialogue, it loaned itself to allow the other characters in the movie to have moments to kind of shine and stand out in different ways. Even like the minor characters, if they're like characters that were only there for like a couple of seconds that he was fighting, they didn't have much to say either, but they did a lot in terms of like action. And that part was
it's show. It's not it's show, not tell. I mean, you can tell if you want to, but especially the character of Dee, he's mysterious. He's stoic. If he was blabbing on the whole time and telling us his story, it wouldn't hit. It's this is a man.
It would definitely throw it off. It would definitely throw off the mystique and appeal, and a bit of the horror elements, because there's a lot of horror elements to the movie. And I feel like if he was talking a lot, like say for example, like for example, like here's an example of like the Ninja Turtles, how the Ninja Turtles would always talk and always try to like pull jokes in their action sequences, which isn't a bad thing. It's just that it's more comedic and it kind of takes away from that tone of like suspense or danger. If something
Right.
like that were to happen in a movie like the Vampire Hunter D movie, which
Right.
is it's very serious movie. It's very serious. It's very grounded, and it's action and it's fantasy. It would have definitely took away from the experience, and it was just cool to just have that. It was just so cool
Right.
to have like these
Well, yeah, I mean,
moments.
it wouldn't. I mean, for him to be it just wouldn't work tonally. This is a
Yeah,
horror action fantasy,
yeah,
and you don't. I mean, not to say that you can't. Like, it's not Evil Dead. You can't have. There is no Ashes. It
it's
doesn't.
good.
That would not work. It works for
Yeah,
Ash.
imagine that.
It doesn't work for D. D has to be
Vampire Hunter
stoic.
Evil
He needs
D.
to be silent. He's a strong, silent type, and that's what's so fun about it.
Oh my
I
god.
Part of the reason I never really went too deep into the novels was I don't want to know more about. I mean, I want to know more about D, but I kind of don't. I think one of the biggest mistakes that was ever made with the character of Wolverine was in the late '80s, early '90s. There was a comic. There was an anthology called Marvel Comics Presents, and there was something called the Weapon X storyline that
Oh
Barry
yeah, yeah.
Smith wrote and drew for Marvel Comics Presents. And I think over the course of a year, they told us kind of an origin of Wolverine, but it was really just him being in this laboratory, having adamantium added to his skeleton. We
Mhm.
still didn't know where he came from. We don't know if Logan is is his first or his last name. We don't know any of these things. We just know he wakes
Mhm.
up in a lab and just starts slicing and dicing scientists in this top secret government project.
Right.
And to me, that is all the origin I ever wanted for Wolverine.
Yeah,
And at
that's true.
some point, I think in the mid 90s, they did do something called Wolverine Origins, and it
Yeah.
completely took all the mystique away. They over explained everything. They showed him as a child, they showed him growing up in the plains of Alberta, Canada, in like the late 1800s or something. And
Mhm.
I don't accept that personally. I don't accept that. It's like they've never, even his name's James Howlett, and I'm like, you do know that Wolverines don't howl. Like it was just like stop.
I
That's
didn't
just
even
boring.
think of that.
I want there to be some type of a mystery. I don't need and that was actually one of the things I learned the most from. There's a really great TV writer named Russell T Davies who single-handedly resurrected Doctor Who back in 2005 and made it basically what it is today. People don't remember that Doctor Who was canceled in 1992 and stayed off
Hmm.
until 2005, and now it's like one of the biggest shows ever since then. And it's
Right.
because of this guy Russell T Davies, who's a brilliant writer, and one of his biggest rules is you don't have to explain everything. You can give little nuggets about characters, you can give glimpses of their past, of like people
Mhm.
they knew, but you don't ever have to explain everything.
That's
And
interesting.
that actually keeps a mystique around a character that's, if I know everything about Wolverine, he's not as cool. And that's, again, why I've sort of stayed away from
Yeah.
getting too deep into D, because I like what I know from Vampire Hunter D 1985 and from Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust in 2000. I don't want anybody to give me some type of I don't want to know. I just don't want to know. I like the mysterious man on a horse who's here to save us. That's all I need to know.
That's cool. Yeah, I get it. I think I'll say this about that, like the little bit of I just checked a lot of reviews online. Like I looked at I think it's Bonsai, I forgot the channel, damn. Look, I checked out yeah, thank you, Bonsai Pop. Thank you. Yeah, I was actually checking out his
That
reviews
guy
as
does
well.
great work.
Yeah, his just essays are incredible. And I
Yeah.
also got a lot of that information about, more about the history and expanded lore and stuff. For what I could tell, it doesn't seem like it's that kind of story where, you're actually going to get background because there's several novels, but there's really nothing in there
Great.
um,
Good.
about Dee's past or history. As a matter of fact, there actually is a graphic novel version of the Bloodlust movie in there,
Okay.
just as one volume. So as far as I'm convinced, it seems like it's one of those stories where the world is so big. It's the world of like Vampire D itself is just so big and mysterious that you can have those type of stories where you can have multiple stories, mean multiple types of characters have the same plot for years, and
Mhm.
you wouldn't need to know that much about him to really know that that stuff isn't as relevant
Right.
to him as a character as it
Right.
is to like all the other characters. So if anything, there might be a history behind the world itself and Dee's place in. I feel like Dee's place in his own story is probably like the last detail that you could possibly ever get to, because there's just so much
Right.
other stuff going on and so
Right.
many other characters are affected by like these centuries of just vampire domination. So I
Sure.
that's one thing I got out of it. It doesn't seem like going to novels is gonna spoil the experience,
Okay.
because
That's
it's
good to
really
know.
more.
That means
Yeah,
that those writers also are great writers in that, because I feel a
yeah.
lot of this overtelling, this over obsession with an origin story, I don't think it's was never really birthed from writers per se. I
Mhm.
think it's a byproduct of fandom, that fans
Mm.
just more and more and more, and they want things over explained and over described to a point where you sort of lose that essence. So the fact that, yeah, the
That's
creators
interesting.
felt the need. It's like, no, he's a mysterious guy. He's this vampire hunter. He has a foot in both worlds. That's all you
Mhm.
need to know. And by the way, he looks pretty badass. And yeah, he
Yeah,
sure does
he
save
is.
the day.
Yeah, he's
That's
just
great.
doing
That's all
legend
we need.
shit. Just doing legend shit, man.
Right, right.
Being a legend. That's all you
Absolutely.
need. So yeah, I like that cycle of the rinse and repeat cycle. Usually the Japanese writers know how to write
It's
stories around
very,
a
it's very
character.
in
They can
the
write the same character, right? Same character, same story, hundreds of different ways, and it never gets tired. I love that.
right.
I love that.
Well, no, exactly. It popped into my head that D is very much, he's very much the samurai character. He's very much the guns. Like if you look at, old westerns, these gunslingers come to town. I don't need to know what he had for breakfast when he was 7. I don't need to know what he thought about his mother. I don't need to know, I don't need to know these things. I just need to know that he's the gunslinger. He's come to town and he's going to kick some ass and give these people back their freedom, or take out the bad guys. Same thing with, the Ronin that comes to town, and somebody fucks with him and then finds out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
that's really
he is
interesting.
very much in the vein of the samurai gunslinger vein. And despite the fact that he's kind of both. Like when you look at him aesthetically, he's got the brimmed hat, but then he's got the sword. He's a samurai gunslinger in so many ways.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just amazing. Like I said, it's amazing to see how, as big and as dark as, the world that he's in is, that
Mm-hmm.
he can actually, go through, each story, or just go through just this movie in general and have an impact, and also be impacted, by the characters. He's not just, he's definitely is a force of nature, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not so to the point where, he's just completely invincible.
Right.
Um, he just tears through every single character, and he
Right.
gets everything that he wants. There's definitely a really interesting curve, and it leads to actually having other characters doing interesting things because they're aware of this guy. Like Doris has some time where it's just her on the screen, and she's kind of
Mm-hmm.
have forced to deal with the same characters that D is forced to deal with, because there's for a moment he's incapacitated and he's not able to help anybody. So like
Right.
the other protagonists are kind of forced to deal with the antagonists on their own, and you see all these interesting things happen that you just don't see coming. Like the whole thing with Doris being taken away to Lee's castle, and I guess the guy in the village, he wears that pink outfit. He
Oh
shows
yeah.
up.
The
He shows
town
up with
jerk.
like,
The town. What would you call him? Misogynist. He's just kind of a, yeah.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
the
but he
Biff.
shows,
He's the
but he
Biff.
sh-
He's Biff from Back to the Future. Yeah,
but he
basically.
but he showed up. He showed up
Hmm.
in a scene in the movie, with one of those vampire candles, and it
Yep.
incapacitated Lee's daughter. And it was crazy how all that stuff was kind of happening. It's like, dude, you never really thought like a character like this would have a moment in the
Again,
movie
that would
that
have
was
those
relevant to the plot of any kind. And I was like, dude, that's crazy. That was
great
cool.
writing.
Dude.
It's great
Yeah.
writing. There were no throwaway characters, and there's nothing that makes me angrier when I watch something that's for the most part really good, and then you have a character that's like, oh, you're not a character, you're a plot device. Like you're just here to move the story along. You don't actually do anything. And again, in Vampire Hunter D, there are no throwaway characters. You know, these
Yeah.
even the characters that seem very minor, like that guy who I can't remember his. Oh, Greco. His name was Greco. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
he's kind of the town jerk. You think, okay, this guy's here to serve a purpose, but no, he actually figures more importantly in the story than you'd expect, like you mentioned. And
Yes. It was
it's
really cool to have him, actually have a moment in the movie where he actually was like, like a help or kind of a hero to the protagonist, and kind of a threat to the antagonist in their plot. I thought that was pretty cool. To have
yeah,
characters that
yeah.
were
There's
like,
no. It's not just D saving the day. You have other characters thinking about their situation, getting their screen time on their own. You have the vampire nobles sort of discussing their own internal politics, and you see that the power plays, and you see the frustrations that go on that side. Again, it would take, I think, a lot of other filmmakers 2.5 hours to pack all that in. These folks did it in 80 minutes. It's
mhm.
so well done. Um, yeah, man, everyone should watch this movie, whether you like anime or not. This is one of the anime that turned a lot of my friends that sort of thought of anime as stupid, or
Childish.
I won't say what the word that they called it back then, but
Oh, okay, childish and perverted.
between Vampire Hunter D and these other ones we reviewed, it changed a lot of their minds. Like, okay, this is not kid stuff. This is really sophisticated, fun storytelling, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
why
yeah.
I think people should see, whether you like anime or not. It's a fun night at the movies. But I guess to wrap up here, in terms of what might pair well, like if we were programming a double feature, I was trying to think what other anime or even live action movie might pair well with Vampire Hunter D. If you were doing a night of programming, my man, at our fictional movie theater that doesn't exist, uh,
Mhm.
what uh, what would you tag on? What would be our second feature in our double feature night, man?
I'm still kind of you got me in my early '90s phase. You got my in my discovery phase. I kind of want to stick with that. I would probably try to do a double feature. I kind of want to do some more movies that you don't know. A lot of people don't know, but I think are really really good, and just kind of like just sleeper hits. So there is a movie. There is a movie I feel like okay, there's two. I'm just gonna throw two out there.
Sure, as many
They
as you
were
want.
just they were just as important to me, as like Fist of North Star, Golgo 13, and Vampire Hunter D. That one, the, number one would be 8 Man After, the OVA of that. I believe that was
Ooh,
a two-part episode.
sure.
And it's essentially like kind of like cyberpunk mystery, but
Yep.
it takes place. I think it also takes place in like '90s America. I think '90s Detroit or something. And
Okay.
I thought it was really cool. When I first saw it, I was just like a robot that moves at the speed of light. I'm like, what? It blew my mind. I was just so blown away by the concept. And I was a really big fan of that. And another one, a lot of people don't know about it. Crimson Wolf. Crimson Wolf.
Oh, I don't know. I
That
don't
one.
know if I know that one. Let me look it up.
That one. That was when I was young. It blew my mind. It really like, and I
This
honestly,
looks like sort of a ninja anime type thing.
it's like martial arts. It's definitely has like a it has it's definitely more of a martial arts more like a martial arts anime, but it had a really interesting story that I thought was just when I saw it.
I've got the plot right here. Three warriors battle the forces of darkness when an archaeological expedition unleashes an ancient prophecy.
Oh man, it was so
Sounds
cool.
cool.
It's like I said, it really stood out to me when I was like watching. I was younger because it basically you have like three different people from three different backgrounds. They end up um realizing that they're kind of connected to like I guess maybe like an ancient clan of some kind through like a
Sure.
mark that resembles a wolf, and they end up working together to pretty much overthrow some kind of I think you could say it's like I think it's an ancient government that is kind of like rules from the shadows, and I'm not sure if it takes place in Japan or in China, but I was really blown away by it. When I was younger, like I said, I was blown away by it. Things might have changed as I've gotten older. I don't know, but it was one of my favorite movies when I was like discovering anime. It's, and I'm like, man, I gotta check that out. So if I were to pick two, and they're off two off the radar anime that I grew up with around the same time as all this other stuff, I'd pick 8 Man After and Crimson Wolf.
Well, both are available on YouTube. The Eight Man
Really?
After, I guess there was a movie edited together from the Eight Man After OVAs because it says Eight Man
Nice.
After Full Superhero Movie 1993. The
Oh,
streamlined dub of it is available on YouTube, as is
oh yeah,
Crimson
yeah,
Wolf.
yeah. That's yeah.
No,
Oh
those
wow,
are
that's
solid.
cool.
I forgot about Eight Man. That's really good. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I would program two ways. One would be completely predictable. I do Vampire Hunter D, and then I do Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, so people could see both. Because
Of
once you
course.
finish
Yeah, that makes the
Vampire
most
Hunter
sense.
D, you
Uh-huh.
immediately want more. So I would just give the people more. So I just basically do the two movies, and then the other one I would do. The second feature wouldn't even be an anime. There is a really, really, really good, and I don't know how people don't know about this movie. I would say vampire-esque live action Japanese movie from
Mm.
1997 called Cure, like the cure for the common cold or whatever.
Sounds familiar.
It is one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's in the Criterion collection. It's on the Criterion channel, and I subscribe to Criterion, so I've watched it a couple times, and it is so good. It's basically a detective story. It shows
Nice.
up on the list of great vampire movies. It's not really a vampire movie, but
Okay.
it is so compelling. If you're somebody who likes Japanese cinema, if you're somebody who likes mystery films, if you're somebody who likes a great hard-boiled detective story, oh my God, you have to watch this movie. Cure,
Yeah, yeah.
1997, or again, after you watch Vampire Hunter D 85, watch Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. Those would be my two recommendations, but both really solid, fun watches. So, yeah, we keep it anime in one, and then I go straight for live action as well. I think you in particular, I've got a sense of what you like.
Yeah.
I think you'd like Cure if you can find the time to watch it.
Mm.
It's one of those movies that I've literally recommended it to people for years. No
Yeah.
one watches it, and then they finally watch it, and they're like, "I can't believe I didn't watch this when you watch it." It's that good. It's
I'm
really,
down for a good movie recommend. So thanks for that. I'm definitely gonna check it out. I
yeah.
love detective stories, especially now. Like I'm trying to
Oh,
get in the habit of learning how to write myself, and I feel like that would really fit me for like my own like
and
maybe.
it's really it's that late '90s. It feels very gritty. It's late '90s. It was shot on film. It feels older than it is. It feels like it should have been, like it could have been 87 instead of 97. There's a
Uh-huh.
timelessness to it that I'm just really good. But man, this was a great recommendation. Everybody out there, head on over to YouTube and watch Vampire Hunter D. There's again, there's several versions of it. It's worth a watch. Our man, our man here, Justin, really brought me back on this one, and
Yeah.
I thank you for that, man. It was fun. Now I
Yeah.
want more Vampire Hunter D movies. Now I'm thinking about, God, I
Yeah,
want
I
a live
know. Yeah,
action.
yeah. The craze is back. I
There's an
got you.
actor. There's an actor. I think he's one of my favorite Japanese actors. A guy named Yusuke Isaya. He was in Sukiyaki Western Django from 2007. That was directed by Takeshi Miike and
Mhm.
executive produced by Quentin Tarantino.
Mm.
That is one of my favorite Japanese films. But he's got that long hair. He's got sort of like sharper look. He would make an excellent D. He really would. That's another one. In
Okay.
addition to Cure, highly recommend Sukiyaki Western Django. They're
Yeah. Okay.
oh
Not to cut you off. I just
no
realized
no
I'm actually looking at a trailer of Cure right now, and I believe I have seen this movie before. I think I
okay.
have. Is this the movie that inspired Seven? Yeah, because I think Seven was inspired by a Japanese movie, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if it's that one.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I could see where maybe aesthetically it might, but the story isn't. I wouldn't say they're the same thing. I could see like maybe there was inspiration,
Yeah,
but
it
I
might have
don't
been
think Seven is
inspiration.
based on Cure that I know of.
Yeah, because I just saw a clip just now of like it looked like there was a guy, I guess that was at a hospital or something, and he was like
Yeah.
moving really slow. And I remember seeing that scene. He like I think it was something about his wife being murdered or something like that. And he
It's
no,
it's. I mean, there's murders in this movie, but I wouldn't like Seven is based around the seven deadly sins, and there's that thread of like religion.
okay,
Cure
right,
has none of that. Cure
okay,
Cure
yeah,
is
yeah,
very much. I guess what makes Cure more powerful is it's you can't predict where it's going. I'll just put it that way. It's so well done in that respect. I think you'll dig it. I mean, you might not. You know,
No,
watch
no,
it. Let me know.
I'm definitely gonna check it out because it looks really familiar to me. And I remember if it's the same movie that I saw, then I know for a fact this is definitely a really good movie. So I'm definitely gonna check it out again.
And again, I can't confirm if it did influence Seven, but
Yeah,
they certainly go in different directions, both those movies. But again, I don't know.
yeah, I'll definitely get back to you on that and find out for sure because yeah, it looks very interesting and familiar. Like I had a film phase like years ago, and I was watching a lot of movies. You know, I guess you say I had like a really big film phase, probably like maybe about early to late thousands. I had a film craze, so it's
Sure.
good to kind of like revisit this stuff and
Oh yeah,
pack on your channel.
I'll forget about movies.
You're getting all my memories. You're getting all my memories of like
No, well,
movies.
same man, same. I mean, I was 14 years old again watching Vampire Hunter D. So it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, guys, please, Vampire Hunter D. Check out these other films. It's good stuff. Justin and I are going to keep rolling and all this good stuff. But thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share. Tell us how much we suck. Tell us how great we are. Tell us what you want us to review. And yeah, so we will see y'all next time.
Yep, thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Carol. Thank you very much.